What's up, guys, fellow bashers and RC enthusiasts everywhere? I'm Travis and you're watching Upgraded RC. Today we're going to do something a little bit different in this video. I'm going to make a video based on you guys' requests. I had several requests, well there's a lot more than several requests, but we're going to call it several requests by you guys wanting to know about the Spectrum DX5c. I guess one of you guys seen mine laying around on a previous video and you knew I had one, so you wanted to see if I could explain it to you. So that's what we're going to do today. That's our goal. I'm going to go ahead and explain in great detail the Spectrum DX5c, what it does, and how it can help you out with your RC adventures. So guys, I chose this radio system for several different reasons. Number one, this has so many key features in it, and it's programmable pretty much to your wit's end. It's very hard to find a system out there that's as dependable as Spectrum that's going to put out that many key features with a very well lit and large display for the price that I paid. Now there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more features. You can spend all kinds of big cash on radio control systems if you want to. They've got lots of options. This one here, it was $139. I paid $129 for it, and I got the SRS 6000 receiver with it. That has 6 channels, and it's also got ABC, which is active vehicle control. They do offer this exact same setup for $109 with the 415 receiver in it, which is only a 4-channel receiver and does not have ABC. Now, one of the other reasons why I bought this, guys, I mean, like I said, it's fully programmable. You can program it for ABC adapters compatible for different receivers. It's got programmable mixes for your 4-wheel steering. Like I said, you can set up all your steering on here. You can run your winch and your lights and all that stuff. And the steering wheel has ball bearings behind it for really smooth operation. And you've probably heard people tell you that, oh, I don't like the size of the wheel and it doesn't feel very good. Well, they offer an option. It says it right on the back of the box. Optional steering wheel available in different sizes. So this is changeable if you don't like that. You can change it out. Now, I really like the feel of it. I think it's great. That's one of the other reasons I like this. It just felt really good in my hands at the hobby shop. So I decided to go with this. This will also run 20 of my different cars. I can put 20 different model cars in here and pick the one I want to run that day. Same remote. I can set up all my programs and everything to that exact car, what I want. It's even got a name for it on here. So you scroll down here until you find the model that you want of all your 10, 20 cars, whatever you got. And you select that one, and all your stuff is already set up from where you left it last time. That's what I like about this. I can take this one remote, and I can go run 20 different models. That's great. Very rare do you find that for the price that we got on this, guys. So here's my DX5c, guys. I carry it around inside of the stainless steel case that Spectrum makes for it. If you have a high dollar radio system, it's only common sense. You're going to want to transport it inside of a nice case like this. You can use, I started out with just a pistol case like this, a plastic pistol case, and I got this one at the pawn shop for $3, I believe. So, I mean, you can just open this up like this, and you can put, you know, you can put several different radio controls in here, and then you can close it, and now you can just throw it around, or it becomes a piece of luggage, so you don't have to worry so much about damaging your radio control or any of the settings getting changed. That's terrible, guys, when you get where you're supposed to be and you realize nothing's working the same because your remote wasn't in a case and everything's changed. That's terrible. So anyway, I think this one right here cost me $40. It matches the Spectrum DX5c, and I love it. It's small, it works really good, and it looks really good. So I would recommend definitely getting a case for whatever radio system you have to help protect it and prolong its life. So let's open it up here, see what's inside. Now you can see our DX5c remote here, how well it fits in there. See how they've cut all the foam out to make it fit really good. I mean, it just fits great. It's so smooth and so protected in there. I've also got a spot here where I've got a case here. I carry some batteries with me. You're going to want to make sure you got spare batteries, guys. If you get out to the desert or someplace where you're going and you don't have any batteries, it makes for a bad day. So there's plenty of room to carry batteries. There's another compartment over here for whatever you want. Maybe it's for optional steering wheels or something. I carry my bind plug in here in case I need to rebind. Let's go ahead and pull this out. Let me get rid of the case here. So here's the radio, guys. Let me go ahead and go over a couple things here. Obviously, you've got your steering wheel here, and like I said, this is all ball bearing driven behind there. It feels great, super smooth. You can take this center Allen out here and you can remove the steering wheel, and you can go for different sizes if you don't like that. There's also a screw underneath here that's for tension. So if you don't like the amount of tension or resistance that's put on there right now, you can loosen that up or you can tighten it up. So that's really great. That's a unique option to help you set this controller up the way that you want and the way it feels good to you. Obviously, you got your throttle here and your brake. Here's your power button. Now, you've got different trim controls on the outside here. They give you options to where all your buttons are on the outside here for all of your trims. I mean, there's 6 trims and a timer. So A by default is set up as your throttle trim. B by default is set up as your steering trim. Now C and D are not set up at all. That's ready for you if you want to do 4-wheel steering mixes or whatever you want to use this for. Maybe you want to use D for your winch. That's just, it works great for anything. You come down here to your other trim button. This is E. Now this button right here, this is not you. This is your steering rate button. This adjusts the steering rates. F is your brake rate. So this is how much brake you want to apply. You can adjust that on the fly. And then you get down here to G, and G is your timer. So you can turn off, this is basically, all this button does is turn your timer on and off. You set your timer internally on your nice screen that you've got right here. See how big this screen is? I mean, it's great. If you get your power button right here, we'll go ahead and turn it on. Turn it on, it fires up real quick. Beautiful, nice, well-lit display with all your digital letters in here and anagrams. So this is how you're going to use it. On the back, they've got a scroll button right here. It's pretty handy because you can use it with your thumb on the fly. I don't really like using it too much while I'm running at all. I just stick with the trim buttons while you're running. But if you're trying to set it up and you're not running your car, you can use this right here to scroll through different things. See, if I go here, if you look at my steering right here, I can actually see the amount of steering that I'm using. See that? And when I pull my throttle, see how it moves my throttle and my brake back and forth? So you can use that to scroll through different things. Now if you push in on it, that's your enter button. And then you can scroll through here, through all your different stuff. And when you get to what you want, say you get to your AVC, you can push it in. It takes you to your AVC. Now right here you've also got a back button and a clear button. So if you run a certain priority here and you wanted to change that from 100 down to something else or just clear it completely, you could go to it and then hit clear and it would clear it. Other than that, your back button will take you back to the previous screen where you were before, and it keeps going all the way back to the beginning. Now see this 25 minutes on here? That's what I've got programmed on here for right now. That's for me to keep track of my batteries on my car. I'm not going to say when I'm really getting it, and it's not really when I'm bashing it either. When I'm bashing, I probably get about 40 minutes out of it. But when I'm getting it pretty good and chasing someone else around the track, I like to see if I can get 25 minutes out of my batteries before they start pooping out. That's why I've got it set there. You've got your antenna up here. Your batteries go on the bottom in this nice compartment here. It takes 4 AA's. And then right here, I don't know if you can see this, if you pop this open, this is your data port. So that you can plug in right here, and you have to get the special Spectrum cable for it. They do make one that plugs in here and then into your USB port, and you can download all kinds of new information and update this remote if you need to. I think it works great right now the way it is, but that is there for you if you need it. You just got to get the right cable. That's about it as far as that goes in the explanation here. Let's get into some more. Okay, so before we get into it, guys, I got a couple things I want to show you here. This is the instruction manual, page 16, and they're just showing you here. I've heard that you can't get steering wheels for these, but the box says you can. I just wanted to show you guys in the instruction manual. Basically, it's that 1.5 millimeter Allen that comes out of the center of the steering wheel here, and then you've got options for different steering wheels. Besides that, here is the adjustment on the steering wheel I was talking about. Where the arrow's pointing to here, there is a Phillips, and you can turn it left or right to increase or decrease the tension of the steering wheel, whatever makes you happy. And then the last thing on this page, they're talking about the data port and the clip I showed you guys to remove. Now the reason why I wanted to show you this is because they've got the part number for the cable right here that you need, so you can hook that up to your computer. Let me go ahead and try to zoom in here a little bit and see if I can show you guys the part number. It's not going to zoom in as good as I wanted to, but I'm going to read the part number here for you. It is SPMA3065, and that's what you need so that you can hook up your computer to the data port and you can update new information or change things if you want to. Let me see, I'm going to zoom back out here, guys. One more thing I wanted to talk about. I was telling you how great this fits in my hand. I don't know what size hands you guys have, but a really good way to test this out, I've got a regular 12-ounce can here, and I can take and put my hands around it, and that's about how much I have from completely closing my gap. So in case you're wondering if it's going to fit for you or not, you don't have a hobby shop close by to go check it out, that's the amount of gap I've got left on the can, so that you guys can see how well that fits in my hand. I mean, that fits great. And right here, it's got a little bit longer shoulders, so if your hands were longer or taller, you could come down this way and probably get it like that, I guess. I just think it feels really good. I love the tension, and I love the wheel stock from the factory the way that it is. Okay guys, let's jump into this, and we're going to start with the installation of the receiver. Now, I'm not going to explain to you guys how to do a step-by-step installation on your receiver, because there's too many of you out there that have way too many different vehicles, and I couldn't do a step-by-step very accurate for you. You're going to have to figure that out, but it's pretty easy. Basically, you're just removing your receiver, putting the new one on, and plugging back in your leads from both your ESC and your steering or whatever else that you have plugged into it. But I wanted to show you guys something here. I got a TQI. This is out of my eRevo here. Now, if you'll notice, you can see right here, see these little notches on the side of each port? There's a flat notch. That's because Traxxas uses Futaba links. So you're not going to be able to put these Futaba links into the Spectrum receiver. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's no notches here on either side of these. So it's pretty simple. All you got to do is when you're putting your lead in, just take and I've seen people use fingernail clippers. You can just clip it off, or I like to use a hobby knife and just shave it off clean down the side. Once you do that, you can just stick the same cable back in here, no problem at all. Like I said, it's just because Traxxas uses these notches that Futaba uses and Spectrum doesn't. So you're going to want to do that first off. Second off, if you're using the 415 receiver, you can mount it pretty much any way you want to. I would recommend mounting it label up with all of your linkage facing up so that it can't get destroyed in any way. It's protected and has room to play. But you can mount it in different angles. Now on the SRS 6000, that is completely different. And you really need to pay attention to this part, guys. Please do not skip through this. This is really super important. As a matter of fact, I bet this is where most of you guys that had the request for me to make this video are having problems with your AVC on the SRS 6000. I can almost guarantee this is what's going on. So let me zoom out here. I want to show you what's going on here, guys. So say I had my receiver completely out of here and everything unplugged, and I go ahead and, you know, any good mechanic will do this. I've done this many times on many different occasions. Whenever you're hooking up something electrical or maybe something else, you want to hook up just enough to see if it works, and then if it works, you can go ahead and install it. Otherwise, you've installed it. If it doesn't work, now you got to take it back out. Well, I'm here to tell you that with this receiver, you do not want to do that. You want to mount this first. There's only two ways you can mount the SRS 6000. Either face up the way that your other receiver came out, the way that it should be, so all your data links here are out of the way, or you can mount it perpendicular, like this. Now, those are the only two ways you can mount this. The reason why is because the SRS 6000 has a gyro in it. That's how your AVC works, your active vehicle control. When you install this and bind this, you're going to want to make sure your vehicle is flat on the ground, on a level surface, And like I said, I would recommend face up. The only other option is perpendicular. That way your gyro, when your car is flat and level, your gyro is flat and level. So if you take and do this, and this is what I think you guys are doing, I'm sure half a handful of you guys are doing this. You go ahead and you're letting your receiver hang right here, and you're plugging in your cords, and then you're checking it out. And you're like, all right, I bound it, and everything works. The remote works. It steers. It's great. Let me go ahead and find a place to mount this now. Well, what the problem with that is, guys, is that you just took your receiver and let it hang off the side like this and tested everything else while you bound it. So now when you put your car down flat and you mount this perfectly flat, now your receiver thinks it's already off kilter like this because you adjusted it like that where it thought it was flat here and it's supposed to be flat here. I bet that's what all you guys are doing. And this is the first step. It's right in the book, guys. Super, super important. The other thing is with the 415, you can mount it with either the double-sided sticky tape, or you can use the hook and latch Velcro. Now, you do not want to do that with the SRS 6000, okay, because of the gyro inside and the active vehicle control. You don't want any movement at all from the hook and latch Velcro. That's not going to work. You're going to want double-sided tape and make sure it's down really good and, like I said, flat. And you need to do all this before you bind it, guys. Before you bind it. Number one, go ahead and cut the little plastic piece off of there so that you can put your leads into this receiver because you don't have the notches. Number two, make sure you mount this either upright or perpendicular, and make sure you use really good double-sided sticky tape. Do not use hook and latch. After you've done all of that, number three, you can bind it on a flat level surface. So here it is in the book, guys. This is page 4 of the instruction manual. I just want to show you guys right here. If the receiver is angled, AVC technology may not function properly. If the orientation of the receiver is modified after binding, you must rebind for AVC technology to function properly. And also important, do not use hook and loop tape to install the SRS 6000. So that's what I was talking about, guys. This is just straight out of the book. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what Spectrum recommends. So please bind it with it installed first. Now, if you've bound it and already installed it, you don't have to take it back out. Just make sure you rebind it again on a flat level surface with the receiver mounted and flat and level. Okay, guys. Now on your SRS 6000 receiver, you've got your steering port here on the bottom, and then you have your throttle port where you plug your ESC into, and then you've got auxiliary 1, 2, and 3. Now if you go all the way to the top, this is your bind port. This is where you're going to put your bind plug when you're binding it. I forgot to tell you guys that, sorry. You're going to put your bind plug right here on the top before you bind it, and then after you're done binding it, you can pull that bind plug back out. Now the next port in between that bind plug and auxiliary 3 is either going to be auxiliary 4 or your disable port. So if you take your bind plug and you put it in number 4, that's going to disable your AVC, or your active vehicle control. Now something else that's probably screwing you guys up here, listen to this part. Now when your AVC is active, the radio system will use auxiliary number 1 and auxiliary number 2 channels for gain control. Okay, so auxiliary number 1, auxiliary number 2 ports can be used in AVC mode to power personal transponders, lights, drive servos, any kind of auxiliary you want, winches, stuff like that. So auxiliary 1 following steering gain, and auxiliary 2 will follow the throttle gain. So auxiliary 1 and 2 are unavailable for use with mixes when AVC is enabled. So let me take and come out here, guys, so I can show you something. We'll zoom out. I want to show you guys what they're talking about here on this. Let me see if you guys can see that. Okay. So if I do this, guys, oops, let me go back. If I do this, guys, you can see right here, see on my steering on the top, can you see this right here? How my steering is moving back and forth. It's perfectly centered. When I let go, it says 0 on the side, and then you can see it moving. Okay, you don't see anything else on here moving, do you? So it goes from steering to throttle to auxiliary 1, 2, 3, and so on down. So now if I do this, if I come down to my AVC, or active vehicle control, push it in, and I come down here to steering gain, see how it's at 0? Now watch this. I'm going to take this to, let's just take it up to a decent amount so we can see it. Let's go to 32. Okay, so I'm going to set that at 32. Now we're going to go back, and we're going to go back to this one. So now my steering's up here, and now auxiliary 1, see the steering still says 0, and auxiliary 1 says negative 36 now instead of negative 100. Watch this. See how my auxiliary is moving now as well? Now I've got my steering moving up here. It's perfectly centered. And then my gain control on the AVC is on a channel auxiliary 1. It's showing my gain control right there. It's 32%. See how I can only go that far? But now you can see both of these moving on here. See how when I turn on the AVC it takes over auxiliary 1? Now if I do that to the throttle, it's going to do the same thing. Then the throttle, when I move this, and that's all that moves, it would move auxiliary 2 as well, back and forth. Okay guys, don't mind yet. I got a couple more things I need to go over here to make sure we do this correct the first time. Okay, I hate to bounce around too, but I got to go back to this receiver, this SR6000. I told you guys if you want to disable the AVC that you put it in this plug here. Actually, if you want to disable the AVC, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have another bind plug. So you will put a bind plug in the top one here where it says bind, and you will put a bind plug here in the second port where it says auxiliary 4 or disable port. Then you will bind it like that, and then remove both of the bind plugs, and you will have no AVC after that. Say you're at a sanctioned event. This is the reason why you would have to do this, guys. If you're at some sanctioned racing event and it's necessary for you to comply with the rules, if they tell you you can't run AVC and you only have one receiver, then you need to go ahead and disable it, rebind it, so that you can show them there's no AVC active or working on the receiver here. So the other thing is, I didn't discuss with you if you've got dual servos, like on my eRevo I've got dual servos for the steering. I went with the easier choice. There's two ways to do it. On this remote you do have an option in the mix where you can set up any one of your other auxiliary channels that you're not using for the other steering servo, but I went the easier route and went ahead and got a splitter so that I'm just plugging in right back to my steering port with just one plug, one lead, and then it wires off to both the servos. I found out that works really well, and that way I can save my other auxiliary channels for something else. Moving on, guys. When you get ready to bind, you're going to have to select a frame rate. Let me go ahead and we'll come down here to bind and frame rate. It's on the same menu setting. So right here, if we come down, see where mine says 11 ms? Okay, now you have the ability of or the option to put in 11 ms, 16.5 ms, or 22 ms. Now 11s offers good response rates and is compatible with most digital servos and analog servos as well. Okay, so you're going to want to have the lowest number you can. That gives you the fastest response rate on your servos. If you have a little bit older servo, you might want to go to the 16.5 if it won't handle the 11 ms, or if you have a really old analog servo, you're going to probably want to go to the 22 ms, and that works really well with the DSM-R receivers. The other ones work really well with the DSM-2 surface receivers. So just so you guys know that, right when you get ready to bind, it's going to ask you to pick a frame rate. Go ahead and pick the lowest setting that you can to get the fastest response time.
And something to know, guys, anytime you do change your frame rate for any reason whatsoever, it's necessary to rebind to get that new frame rate to stick. Also very important, if you do plan on running your SRS6000 and you want to use the AVC on it, you have to have digital servos. It will not work with analog servos.
Okay guys, I think we've got enough information down out there to where we can go ahead and bind now. We're going to start with the SR415 receiver, no AVC. I'm going to go right out of the book and we're going to go step by step to make sure this is easy and we get it done right.
Okay, the first thing we need to do is go ahead and insert a bind plug into the receiver's bind port. Number 2, power on the receiver and wait until the receiver's LED begins to flash. Now, number 3, power on the transmitter. Number 4, select the model memory. Okay, you're going to scroll through your menu until you see model memory, and then go ahead and select that. Once you're in there, go ahead and enter the name of your vehicle that we're going to go ahead and bind with today, and then select that vehicle. Number 5, we're going to go into bind mode, and then we're going to go ahead and set our frame rate. Remember, lowest is better. If I was you guys, I'd just go ahead and set it to 11 ms and see if it works. If your servos aren't working correctly or something else is wrong and you know they're older, just go ahead and go back, and then you can change it to 16.5 or 22, whatever works best for you, but then you have to rebind again. Remember that. Okay, and then number 6 here, and this one I had to think about this for a minute, but it says move the throttle channel to the desired failsafe position. Okay, now let me flip over here to another page. I want to show you guys. Now on page 10, guys, in the manual or the instruction book here, I found the failsafe, and right here basically what it's telling you, so you guys know what failsafe is. In the unlikely event that the radio link is lost during use, the receiver will drive the throttle servo to its pre-programmed failsafe position, which is normally full brakes. Okay, and all other channels will have no servo output. The throttle failsafe position is set during binding. If the receiver is turned on prior to the transmitter, the receiver will enter failsafe mode. So basically, just by turning on your receiver with the bind plug in it before the transmitter is turned on, it's going to automatically enter this failsafe mode they're asking you to do on number 6. So if you want to change it, that's fine. If not, I just leave it alone. It's already kind of set. And then when the transmitter is turned on, the normal control will be resumed after the bind plug is taken out, obviously. Okay, so let's go back here to the other side. So then the next thing to do, guys, would be go ahead and scroll down after you've set your frame rate. Scroll down to bind on the bottom down there, and press the rolling selector to enter. And then what you're going to do is the orange LED is going to start to flash on top of the transmitter. When the binding process is complete, the transmitter and receiver LEDs will stop flashing and turn solid orange. Okay, so if you get a solid orange out of it, you know you're good. Your bind process was successful and it worked out good. If not, or you decide you want to change your frame rate, just go back and rebind again. Okay guys, moving on to the SRS 6000 receiver here. Now AVC technology requires at least 80% travel on the steering and the throttle in all directions to complete the calibration. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you turn your receiver on, you come down here, you're in model select, remember to get your model name in there, and we come down here to travel, just below model name, punch that in. Now this is your travel. It's showing your steering servo here. You have 100% left and 100% right. And now your throttle servo here, you have 100% on the low end of the throttle and 100% on the high end of the throttle. So it's necessary to have these two categories here, the steering and the throttle, at least 80% in your menu here on the transmitter before you do this bind, or it's not going to work correctly. Just want to let you guys know that. Now Spectrum here wants to let you guys know that for vehicles with mechanical brake, very little servo travel is used to apply braking force. In this case, it is common to reduce the throttle travel for braking well below 80%. To calibrate a vehicle with a mechanical brake, increase the brake travel to above 80% whenever the vehicle is calibrated or bound. Okay, and then change the braking travel back to the travel setting for your brakes. Alright, let's get on with it. So Spectrum wants you to notice here, the following sequence of steps must be followed in order for the AVC technology to function properly. So do this exactly step by step. Don't skip around here. I didn't think you would anyway. I'm not going to. So number 1, insert the bind plug into the bind port on the receiver. Number 2, power on the receiver. The orange LED flashes indicating the receiver is in bind mode. Now remember guys, you're going to want your SRS 6000 receiver mounted flat or perpendicular in there while the car is on a flat level surface so that your gyro is not confused and knows it's on a flat level surface. All right, number 3, we're going to go into the radio here and we're going to center the steering trim and the throttle trim on the transmitter. So you're going to go into your trims and just make sure you have equal distance on your steering trim left to right and equal distance on your throttle up and down. You're going to center the position. It's pretty easy to see in the transmitter. You can see it. Let me see here. Number 4, put your transmitter into bind mode. Remember, this is where you're going to go ahead and select your frame rate, and I recommend using starting with 11. If your servos will handle it, great. If not, go ahead and go back to whatever works best for you and then rebind. Number 5, the bind process is complete when the orange LED on the receiver is solid, okay, just so you know that. And then you're going to go ahead and pull the trigger on the transmitter to full throttle, and then you're going to pause, and then you're going to return the trigger to center. And then you're going to push the transmitter trigger to full brake, and then you're going to pause, and then you're going to return the trigger back to center again. Number 8, you're going to turn the transmitter steering wheel to full right position, pause, then return the steering wheel to the center. Number 9, turn the transmitter steering wheel to the full left position, and then pause, and then return the steering wheel to the center position. The orange LED flashes to confirm the setting has been accepted. Now, number 10, turn off the vehicle and remove the bind plug once the calibration and binding process is complete. Number 11, power off your transmitter. So essentially what they're saying, guys, what they want you to do when it's in bind mode and you're getting ready to calibrate and you are on step number 6, pull the trigger to full throttle, pause for a second, and then go back to center position. And then number 7, go ahead and push the throttle to full brake position for a second, pause, and then come back to center position. So essentially you're going to go like this, and then go back to center, and then you're going to go like this, then go back to center. Now you're up to step 8, and they want you to turn the steering wheel to the full right position, pause for a second, go back to center, and then go ahead and turn it to the full left, pause for a second, and go back to center. Now after you do that, the orange LED is going to flash, okay, and that's going to confirm that the setting has been accepted. If that doesn't work, go ahead and try the bind process again. But it basically, there's a little trick to it, and I don't know how to tell you guys to do it. I had to do it a couple times, but basically when you pull back, I think it has to do with how long you're pausing. When you pull back that trigger for a second and then go back to center, it tells you to pause, but I've done it and paused for a minute and then done this and paused for a minute, and it seems like it doesn't work for me. So I'm kind of like this, about this fast, just like that for a second, back and forth. I think it's only a second or less. If you pause for more than that, it won't work. But that's basically what they're telling you there as far as that goes.
Alright, so just some FYI for you guys. Each time you put the SRS 6000 into bind mode, you must recalibrate it after that. You can't skip that step. You have to do it each time. If you are reversing your servos, because when you put it in bind mode the first time, everything is turning the opposite direction of the way you think it should go, and you go to your menu select and go into reversing. I will get into that here soon. But after you do that, you're going to need to recalibrate it again after you rebind it. It's just necessary. If you change the travel, you're going to need to rebind it. If you use this receiver in another vehicle and change the model memory, you're going to have to rebind it and recalibrate it. Now, if you change the servo reversing or set the travel different after binding, the ABC will not work properly. Just FYI for you guys, something you need to know, pretty important. Alright guys, I figured this video was going to be on the longer side to explain all the functions and stuff that this great radio has. I think it's going to be necessary. I'm going to go ahead and have to do 2 parts. So you have just completed watching part number 1. I helped you guys identify all the controls and switches and what they do and how to bind your SR15 or your SRS 6000 correctly. I've also pointed out a lot of the problems that you guys were requesting that I made a video on. I think we've solved those. By the way, if I did solve anybody's problem from the things I showed you here with the receiver, would you please comment and let me know, just so that other people can see your comment and know that that is what fixed it. So go ahead and watch this part of the video. It'll help them out a lot. That would be great, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and do a part 2.
and I'll release it at the same time as this so that you guys aren't waiting to find part number 2. Part number 2 is going to go through all of the menu. We'll get into that. We'll go through all the functions in the menu and all the availability of everything that you have in this great radio. We'll explain everything. I'll show you how to set up the trims and all that stuff. So that will be in part 2 coming up next.